Hey guys, welcome back. It has been a while since I posted a video. It's been a few weeks. I was away on vacation, well, a business trip slash vacation in California, and then I came home and everything was kind of blowing up with COVID-19, and it's just been a wild couple weeks, as I think a lot of you can probably relate. So I was really wanting to start posting regularly again this week since I did take a few weeks off. But now that everything is kind of happening in the world, it just kind of feels wrong to me to move on and start talking about things that just don't really feel like they matter right now. And I know that there are content creators that like doing that. They are just trying to distract in a good way. And I can totally respect that, but for me it feels like this is kind of all-consuming and it's kind of what I want to talk about, and I don't really personally want to be watching videos about shopping hauls or capsule wardrobes or just things that sort of are irrelevant right now, but I also don't want to contribute to the panic. So I just wanted to kind of talk today about my thoughts, and this isn't going to be a heavy video, I hope. I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts with you guys and just kind of process it myself too, I guess. So today I thought I would just kind of candidly chat about my thoughts on everything and just how we're trying to maintain some sort of normalcy and peace in our home in the midst of chaos. And I want to preface this by saying I realize that this is a big deal. I'm not taking this lightly at all. I do realize that I'm privileged because I am probably not going to be as affected as a lot of people by this, and I don't want to come off insensitive by saying anything. But the reality for me is just that I am probably not going to be affected by this, but I am taking all the steps. I'm self-isolating, I'm social distancing, I'm doing all the things in order to protect other people. But through that, I also don't want to just sit at home worrying, reading the news, and just kind of going down that spiral of fear and panic and stress. So I'm trying to also do good things and make this a positive time in my life. So I actually live in Canada, if you didn't know that, and as of right now, March 17th, all of our borders are basically shut to any non-essential travel, and we're being encouraged to self-isolate, social distance, and just not be in public spaces. But my prediction is that within the next day or two, we're probably going to be on a stricter lockdown, and even more places are going to be closed. So like I mentioned, I was in the US about a week ago, and I did come back before any of the travel restrictions were placed. I was not told to self-isolate or self-quarantine. It wasn't even suggested. People weren't even really talking about it unless you had traveled to China. I'm trying really hard to just not leave my house, just stay here for a couple weeks until I know that I don't have it or don't have symptoms, because they do say that you can be asymptomatic for up to 2 weeks and still spread it. So I'm trying my best to isolate for that time, but of course I did go out a little bit before it even got worse. But thankfully my husband is off work now also, so he is home, which is really weird. And I actually am used to spending a lot of time at home. I'm often home all day by myself without the car, and it doesn't really bother me, but there's something different about being home and being told that you can't leave as opposed to just choosing not to leave. All of a sudden, now that I'm not allowed to leave, I want to go everywhere. So I wanted to kind of chat about my thoughts of COVID-19 in relation to being a minimalist. So one thing that's come to mind a lot recently is that I always resisted minimalist food or groceries or a minimalist pantry. I just never liked the idea of only buying the things that I needed for the next week or two and never having any back stock. I always liked to at least have the ingredients on hand. If I all of a sudden decided that I wanted to make something or bake something last minute, I like to just have those things. So my pantry was really never minimalist, and I kind of always felt guilt about that. But now that all of this happened, I'm so grateful that I just had things on hand. And while I did have to go stock up on a lot of essentials, I think it would have been even more overwhelming if I didn't already have some stock in my house. So going forward, I definitely am not going to feel guilty about not wanting to have a minimalist pantry and just being okay with having some extra stock, and even if that's not considered minimalist, that's totally okay with me. So while all of this is happening, while I'm basically stuck in my house for the next 2 weeks, self-isolating, I really do want to make the most of it. And in the past couple days, I found myself just scrolling on my phone for hours and hours, just looking for the next update, wanting to hear the next news about it. I've even watched the actual news, which I never ever do. And I just was realizing how toxic that was to my brain and my mental health. So I've really put a stop to that. Just the mindless scrolling and the need to know all of the information, because the reality is that I will know all of the information. There's no way that any of it's going to be a secret or that I'm not going to find out. But I don't need to spend hours and hours scrolling and basically just reading the same information over and over again. I can just take a few times a day to update myself and then put it away for the rest of the day and just let myself live my life. So last night was really the first night that I really implemented this. I was feeling super stressed. Yesterday is when Canada closed all of its borders. So last night I just felt like I needed to take a break, stop consuming. So I actually just turned my phone off, put it in a different room, and I had a bath. And then I read some of a book that I had been wanting to read, and then I started a puzzle with my husband, and it was several hours of just disconnecting, and I felt such a big difference in just my anxiety and how I was feeling overall. And it's honestly carried over into today. I've hardly let myself scroll. I mean, I've updated myself a little bit, but as of right now, there isn't really more updates. And with that, I realized how important it is for me personally to implement some sort of schedule. And that's something that I usually try to do since I do work from home full time. I've really had to implement a schedule so that I actually get things done. But I find that when my husband's home, I just go into total vacation mode. I feel like I can sleep in and just kind of do nothing all day. And I'm not saying that there's wrong with resting, but for me, that makes me feel super unaccomplished. It actually makes me feel more stressed and more anxious, and then I just kick myself at the end of the day because I got nothing done. So just a really simple schedule, like getting up at a specific time, getting dressed and getting ready for the day a little bit. And by no means does that mean like curling my hair or putting on a ton of makeup or anything, but just kind of the basics so that I feel like a human and I feel ready to kind of go about my day. And then also things like moving my body, and I really want to get back into a workout routine and just getting some work done and using this time to get ahead of work because I definitely feel like I've been behind. And then in terms of my actual health, this isn't really something that I've talked about a lot on here yet, but I talk a ton about holistic health on my Instagram stories. And it's something that I'm so passionate about. Honestly, for the past couple of years, I've spent most of my free time like reading or listening to books or podcasts or just learning about holistic health and just how to be healthy. And so I'm really thankful now that I have been so proactive for the past few months. And I have been taking supplements and eating healthy, but I'm really trying to keep doing all of those things. And I know that in a time like this, it's so easy to want to turn towards junk food and alcohol. But personally, I'm really trying not to do those things because I know that that will only suppress my immune system, and I need all of the immune power right now in order to possibly fight anything that I may come in contact with. So I'm trying really hard to eat lots of healthy foods, like citrus foods, berries that are full of lots of antioxidants, tons of salads. I'm trying to eat greens every single day. And I totally realize that the longer that this goes on, if our grocery stores don't get restocked, because currently they're basically out of everything, it might be harder and harder to eat healthy, fresh, nourishing food and fruits and vegetables. But right now I'm doing the best that I can to eat healthy foods, and I'm really prioritizing that. But there are so many other things that we can do proactively to help our health. And even if you're not scared of personally getting sick, there are still things that we can do to eliminate even the chance of passing the virus on to someone else who might get more sick from it. So supplementing is something that I always do, but I feel like that's a whole separate video. So if you're curious about what is in my holistic medicine cabinet, I'd love to share about that. I'm not really doing anything specific right now, but I always take supplements just to support my body and my immune system. And then even super simple things like opening your windows every single day for 15 minutes just to get fresh air in. And I know that it might feel like the air inside of your house is safer, but there are actually so many studies that show that the air inside our house can actually be more toxic and have a lot more pollutants than the air outside. So even though it's still super freezing cold where I live, it's well below zero still, I will be opening my windows for at least 15 minutes every single day just to get fresh air in. And I find that that's even so helpful for me on days when I'm home all day and it just kind of starts to feel stuffy in the house and like claustrophobic. Just getting fresh air in your house if you can't go outside is so important. And then another thing that we can do to help with the air quality inside of our house is diffusing essential oils. This is also something that I love to do every single day. So I've been choosing to diffuse both On Guard and Breathe every single night at this time. And I've also been making sure to run our humidifiers every single night because really dry air can make you more susceptible to viruses. But mainly, like I mentioned at the beginning, I really want this time to be something that is positive and productive for me and for my husband. And I realize that there are scary things happening, but for me personally, sitting on my phone all day and scrolling just puts me in a really bad place. So I'm really trying to view this time as a blessing. I get to spend the next few weeks with my husband, which was unexpected. And I'd encourage you, if you are off right now, of course if you still have to go to work, this might not apply to you, but if you're off, or even if you're going to work but then in the evenings you basically have nothing to do because all of your activities, the gym, everything is closed, so you have more time on your hands, I would just encourage you to use that for good. I think all of us say that we're too busy for things at some point. Like you're too busy to experiment with cooking, or you're too busy to start a workout routine. So now, if you're like me and you are literally stuck in your house, and you have all the time in the world, this is the best time to do those things that you've been too busy to do. So whether it's doing a puzzle or reading a book or starting a workout routine, or even bigger things like finishing up a home project or decluttering your house or your kitchen, or learning a new skill on YouTube, or maybe even launching a blog or a YouTube channel, or FaceTiming with friends, or calling your grandparents, or even just calling your neighbors, checking in with your neighbors. I just think that we have so much potential to use this time for good instead of to be in this state of stress and anxiety. So personally, that's what I'm really working on choosing. But then also give yourself grace. This time is scary, so if you're feeling scared or worried or anxious or uneasy, that is okay. Those feelings are okay. None of us have ever gone through anything like this before. And the reality is that we don't know if this is going to last 3 weeks or 3 months or even longer than that. And maybe your health or your finances are uncertain. And if that's the case, it's okay to feel uneasy about the whole situation. If what you really need is to have an unproductive day or week, or just binge watch a Netflix series in order to take your mind off of the stress for a few hours, that's also okay. I really don't think that there's a right or wrong way to handle any of this. I'm sending all of you guys so much love, and I would really love to chat with you in the comments below and just hear how you're feeling and how you've been affected by this so far. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you again in a few days.